Okay, so over the past couple days, you've probably heard us talk about credit or heard me mention the word credit before. Not necessarily as a credit card, but in kind of, it's this thing that kind of tracks how reliable and how responsible you are with paying things back. And that's something that we all have to deal with, okay? And so it is what allows you to get loans, it what allows you to buy your house, to get a car, sometimes even to get jobs. They look at your credit report because your credit report basically tells people how responsible are you with your money. And this is kind of like one place to look at that. That's what it does. Okay, it tells you how responsible are you with your money and paying back people. So what they have is we have these credit reports that are done, and you've probably heard of sites like Credit Karma or freecreditreport.com that kind of help you manage these. So what we want to talk about is what goes into these credit reports. What all are they looking at to kind of determine how responsible you are? And so there's four kind of big ideas that we're looking at. So first off, they look at your personal information. This is things like your names. For the girls, if you change your name, looking at maiden names, if you've gone by a different name at another point, they're looking at all that. Current and past addresses. They want to see where have you lived, what properties have you owned, things like that. Phone numbers have you used, employers, who have you worked for, what's your job history. Okay, that goes into it. Your date of birth, how old you are, and then your social security number. Social security number, you may not know yours, but social security is like your ID with the government. More so than your name, you have this number that's kind of attached to you, and that's your social security that's used for a lot. Okay, so those are all the personal information that they're keeping track of when they're looking at these credit reports. Next, we have our credit information and payment history. So this is some of the big stuff as far as what they're looking at that involves your money. So this is lender information, which these are who do you have loans with? Do you have a loan with Wells Fargo for your house? Do you have a car loan with Chase Bank? Do you have, all those different people? Then they're looking at the different types of credit that you have. Right? So you have credit cards, which are credit, but you also have things like your auto loans, you have regular loans, home mortgages, which a mortgage is just a house payment. It's a fancy word. I don't know why they call it mortgage, but that's what a mortgage is if you've ever heard that. It's just a house payment. They also look at things like, if you want to add out to the side here, student loans would also be factored into this as well if you have anything to pay for college and stuff like that. Okay, they look at the dates that account was opened or closed. If you're closing accounts, it shortens that history. So actually, it's good to keep these accounts open even if you're not using them, just to show that you've paid it off and to hold on to that history. Okay, and that plays into the length of credit history. So your length of credit history, you want to keep those accounts open so it shows that you've had it for a long time. Then they look at the amount owed. When my wife and I bought our house, that's what one of the things they did looking into credit is how much money do you owe to different people? Do you owe on credit cards? Do you owe for your car? Do you owe for this, for student loans? They want to look at how much money do you owe overall. Owing a little bit is actually good. You want to have some money out because they want to know that this is something that you do and you pay off. So a little is good. A lot is not. So owing a little bit of money is okay, and is actually a good thing. They want to show that you want to show them that you can borrow money and that you'll be good for it. But owing a lot of money is where they say, whoa, now you may be getting a little bit irresponsible now, taking out too much. Some public information that they need to know down here. Have you ever filed for bankruptcy? So a bankruptcy is an individual reports that they cannot pay their debt. So if you get to a point where things are so bad and you have so much debt and you cannot pay it, you file for bankruptcy. You've probably heard this happening with companies where they have to file for bankruptcy. You can do it, and what it does more than anything is it really, really hurts your credit in the future. So if you stacked up so much debt and you couldn't pay it off that you had to file bankruptcy, the next time you try to go get a loan to get an apartment or to do something like that, it's going to be a lot harder, or you're going to get it at a much higher interest rate because of that bankruptcy filing. Okay, we have what's called tax liens. Okay, and this is spelled Liens, but it's said like lean, like you're leaning to the side. And that's if you failed to pay taxes. So fail to pay your taxes, they're going to have liens held against you, which means it's like a debt for tax, right? So this is like a debt for tax, like you owe them money. Okay, do you have any foreclosures? This is when, so when you buy a house, and if you can't pay for it and you lose it, what happens is that the lender, whoever lent you the money to buy that house, they sell that house for you. So it's like if my wife and I had our house and we couldn't pay it anymore, the bank owns our house still because we're paying it off. They could sell our house as a foreclosure, and they're just trying to get their money back. But again, that looks bad on you because you couldn't make your house payments. Wage garnishments. So what wage garnishments are is it's money that the government comes in and takes out of a paycheck to pay for child support or to pay for student loans or to pay for taxes or to pay for some kind of debt. So the government takes that money out and holds it because you're not doing it, so they go ahead and do it for you. Okay, last we have credit inquiries. Inquiry is just like kind of another word for ask. So it's like you're asking for your credit report. Or you're asking to see what your credit looks like. That's what a credit inquiry is. So if you do a self-inquiry, that goes in, and they keep that in your credit report. Your credit application inquiry, right? How many times you've applied for credit. Employment inquiry with written permission. So only if you've you have to allow them to do that. You could have a court order inquiry, an insurance application. You could have a rental application, or you could have cell phone. So these are all different things that can look at your credit report, and when it looks at them, they just make a note that either, you, for the self-inquiry, you checked out your credit report, or you had an employer check it out, or the court did, or, an insurance company did, or a cell phone company did. So anytime anybody is looking at your credit report, they make a note of it. It brings it down a little bit when you have these other people do it, but it's not going to hurt you long term. Like, it's easy to come back from other people checking out your credit report. Okay, length information is retained, and this is just good information to know. 2 years is how long they hold on to credit inquiries, not injuries. That should say inquiries. They hold on to those for 2 years. 7 years for late payments. So if you're late on a credit card payment, they hold on to that and keep that on your record for 7 years. 10 years for closed accounts that are kept in good standing. So if you close those accounts, it'll hold on for 10 years, but then they go away. So that's why it's good if you just keep them open, even if you're not using them, then that's going to continue to show that good credit history. And then up to 10 years for bankruptcy. So eventually, you're able to move on from this stuff, but a lot of them hold on for a very long time. And so this is why all these things are what go into your credit report. And this is what establishes your credit. Keeping this good credit report is what's going to make it to where you can do things in the future, like buy a house and get a car and rent an apartment, and do all that kind of stuff, is making sure you maintain that good credit report and good credit history. Okay?